this particular session of the designing the structure to fit the global strategies, we will talking about the history of the global business, developing an international business strategy, excluding these your international business strategies, executing, how to execute it, deciding the your organization structure for the 2021. Example is Forbes, then the designing the structure to fit the global strategy, then the Porter's 5 forces of the competitive position analysis, how the strategy shapes structure, the choosing the right strategic approach, then as usual the case study, research paper, book recommendation and references. In the history of the global business refers to international trade, whereas a global business is a company and doing the business across the world. The exchange of the goods are over the here the great distances goes back a very long time. The anthropologists have identified long distance trading in Europe in its stone age. So, maritime trade or the business across the seas are there. So, when we find about that these seas dates back before the Greek civilization, then these would not be defined as the global trade, but they had the same goals to reach beyond the homelands and across the world to find the new markets and the resources are there. So, it means that it is not a new practice. For instance, a long time these type of the practices have been there, but naturally that time it was not called as a global practices, right, but the people were used to do this. The British East India Company, they established in 1600, and the Dutch East India Company began in 1602, were the two earliest global companies. A government chartered the organizations, and they were part business and the part government was there. Their goals were to accumulate capital, often by using these the natural resources and labor in the new locations, and establish the colonial empires. At the end of the 19th century, another type of the global business emerged, and the multinational corporations was born. The first MNCs in the modern world were also searching for natural resources, locations where production was directly linked to the land. Many of today's mining and the agriculture companies date back more than the 100 years and still rank among the world's the largest global companies are there. Developing an international business strategy. Now, before a company gets too far a new market, it is important to step back and answer some questions that will help to determine what type of the business strategy makes the most sense at this stage. Here are 8 steps articulated by the global expansion and international employment firm. Research your market, seek out the multiple sources of information, trying to make the local contacts, and don't neglect the researching the local regulatory environment. Decide on what you are bringing to the market and be clear about what you are selling and how your products fit into the local market was there. Set your goals and set specific goals about the market shares, their sales numbers, cost efficiency and the customer growth. Develops the sales goals for the multiple years. Make a note of any competition and the research local competition to further understand potential markets. Develop the finer points of your strategy. Think hard about who you will hire, how your business can navigate financial regulations, and what an overseas market means for the marketing. Evaluate your infrastructure, audit your current business capabilities. Example, the term needed to carry out the expansion is there. Create a system for the distribution. Explore your these options for the franchising, licensing and regulatory requirements. Consider a partner or the consultant is there. Explore putting a management team together on the ground to help the expand your operations. It recognizes that your global business strategy will be leaving a document. Initial plans and the goals that taken shape through the focused due diligence are subject to change once you set up the shop across the international boundaries. Remember to be flexible as you move into the new markets. Keep these goals and the visions in mind. Here we have to keep in mind that is the basic principle is about the flexibility, sustainability and the growth is there. And naturally when we are talking about the going across the boundaries, then definitely we are required to be the open for the different cultures, different practices, and similarly we will be able to sustain only in the current time if we are extending our expansion, our business is there irrespective of the limitations to any particular boundary. So, partners with some someone who understands the laws and the regulations in your new market, and explore the pros and cons internally, and make sure you have the stakeholders buy-in is there. In the government of India also, you will find that is the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi is giving the more and more emphasis on the local market is there. So, therefore, the expansion of the business is for at the global level, and the making the promotions of the local businesses are there. So, here also the government India is trying to become the global organizations leadership. Now, get to know your international customers, learn how you have a competitive advantage, and become familiar and comfortable with the new culture. So, unless and until you do not know your international customers, because whenever we are talking about the backbone of any particular business, then the backbone of any particular business is, and that is about the customers. So, we have to learn more and more and understand that is what type of the businesses they will like. I would like to give the example of the KFC and the McDonald is there. So, when KFC and the McDonald entered into the India, and that time being these more vegetarian culture, the McD has changed their burgers with the green leaves and the cucumbers, tomatoes, and this type of the vegetables, and that has become the very popular. While in the KFC, because when the KFC was entered in India, and that time this concept of these fried chicken and that was not that popular, and as a result of which the McDonald reached to the high rate of the success as compared to KFC. Now, they become the familiar and comfortable with the new culture is there. So, our product, our business that should match with the culture is there. There are number of case studies in which we talk about, that is these MTV and the other musical channels which were otherwise are not acceptable into a particular culture, but when they have tried and they have reached to the new heights with their businesses. So, this is the understanding the culture, and when you are becoming the familiar and comfortable, then definitely in that case you become the part of that particular culture, which is very necessary. If you want to do a business in the international level, multinational level, global level, then in that case it is required, that is you are going for this type of the adoption of this new culture is there. Now, prepare a solid global marketing plan. Now, when you understand the geography, when you understand the history, when you understand the art, then definitely in that case you are making a solid global marketing plan is there. Dear friends, in many management courses you will find that the study of the history is a part of these management courses, study of the social science, of course it is a part of these management courses, study of the economics is a part of the management courses. So, therefore, in that case when you are studying the history, the geography, the art, then definitely you can understand what will be your marketing plan. So, therefore, a solid global marketing plan will be there to support the international growth, and the strategic goals are there. So, know your customers, know the culture, know the practices, know the rules, regulations. So, we always talk about the external environmental factors, the social, political, economical, legal, and technological. So, these environmental factors, the pastoral environmental factors, when you are aware about a particular nation, particular or within the nation, even the domestic businesses are there, like India is a very big country, and then from east to west, north to south, when you understand the particular culture, then definitely your marketing plan that will be having the more successful, because that will have the support of this growth and the strategic goals are there. So, here I would like to take this example, deciding your organization structure for the 2021, how it has been done by the Forbes. So, Axiom strategy sets the structure, and the structure breeds the behavior, and they remain true and have stood the test of time. So, these your offers some insights on the first phase of this designing the shape of an organization, which call the macro structure, and don't be tempered to jump straight into the redesigning the details of the organization without considering if the overall structure is correct. It is imperative first to decide if an organizational restructure is required. It is one of the biggest and the most important questions an executive needs to answer. Do we need fundamentally to reorient the organization structure to achieve out the strategy? Some leaders they shy away from the embarking on an organization design initiative. Redesigning a company is a large understanding that needs expertise and experience to get in right. So, the leaders might be tempted to opt for an operational improvement program. However, if the organization needs to raise its performance substantially on faces a significant threat, a new strategy and the operating structure will be required. A good strategy is about being unique. It means selecting a specific set of activities to deliver a distinctive combination of the value and the forming the organizations to provide its products and services most effectively. Set a robust strategy, restructure and align the organization, then implement and the operational improvement initiative such as Lean or Six Sigma. So, these improvement initiatives would not work if the structure is broken, the strategy structure and the Lean. So, a company's macro structure should be logically configured and align with its strategy. The macro structure in the skeleton of this organization, it determines the how positions are grouped and the approximate size of the units. It also encompasses the design of these horizontal part and vertical linkages to add flesh to the bones. When we talk about especially the planning, and therefore, when we talk about the types of plans, for example, the strategies, policies, procedures, rules, regulations and budgeting, and we said that is the planning and control are the twins. So, therefore, this control system. So, here it is becoming very important, that is these horizontal and vertical linkages which you are taking and then making this control system to standardize the outputs. Then here the another function of the manager, that is the coordination mechanism to enable this collaboration is there. So, this is the whole management practices. So, it starts from the planning, it goes to the organizing, it takes the leadership, it coordinates and it controls are there. So, therefore, in that case when you are talking about the organization structure, so as a managerial function, then it is very important, that is how you are able to plan, organize and control and collaborate these all the departments which will be working together. So, few companies systematically approach organization design issues, that is sound chief executives can provide a clear rationale for their company strategies. They are often much less to articulate when it comes to the justifying their structures. When it comes to the designing an organization structure, there are the 4 drivers to consider. Product market strategies are there, how the company intends to lead each product market and that is a field in which it will compete. The corporate strategy, how the company intends to gain an advantage from the competing in the product market areas, and the people, the skills and the attitudes of the individuals within the organizations are there, and the constraints, the culture, environmental, legal and internal factors that can curb the choice of the design. So, designers who fail to consider these drivers will make it hard for a company to achieve its strategy, and that leads to the first series of the practical test, the market advantage test, and does the design allocate the appropriate management attention to the operating the priorities and the intended sources of the advantage in is the product market area. So, therefore, these all strategies which we are talking about, whether it is a product market strategy or it is a corporate strategy or it is people and the constraints are there, then definitely in all these premises we have to work, and then we have to find out that is the product market areas. So, even the senior level managers who try to add the value are often vague about how they will do so, and do the senior members of the organization they on they keep to answer this, consider the executive team advantage test, and does the design reflect the intended sources of the added value generated by these executive team and the board members. So, most managers within a company will want to bend this structure to retain the team. However, I would advise training on the replacing employees who are unable to contribute this sufficiently. So, do not weaken the organization's ability to achieve its strategic goals. It is tough to do but necessary, and that is why it is healthier to get the external support when and the redesigning an organization, and this leads to the people test. And does the design identify the skills, experience and behavior within the each departmental unit they are required to achieve the strategic intent. Managers are aware that is the constraints can exist, but the sometimes they do not pay the enough attention to issues during the design process. So, options can be developed and even selected before the corporate lawyer or the IT expert points on the problem. Hence, the fourth test, that is a feasibility test, and does the design take account of these constraints that may make the proposed unworkable is there. And here it is very important, that is whenever we are making any planning, then you have to find out whether it is feasible or not. We understand that is every planning is restricted with these the different internal and external environmental factors, but then we have to test also whether there it is feasible or it is not feasible. To help the managers adopt a less haphazard approach, I have distilled the 5 principles of the good organization design is there, and according to the author, that is the specialization principles are, there is a set of boundaries to the accomplish the most important benefits that is obtainable from the specialization. The cooperation principle is there, and that defines units so that the tasks that need to be coordinated are within a unit borders. The knowledge and the competence principle that identify the which responsibilities to decentralize and the hierarchical levels to set up is there. The control and the commitment principle is there, define the process for ensuring that the managers effectively discharge decentralize the responsibilities are there. And the innovation and adaptation principle, that is ensure the organization can change and evolve in the future is there. So, therefore, the cooperation principles, that is working togetherness, unless and until that is we are not able to develop that competence by our human capital, then definitely it will be difficult. But otherwise, if we are making these properly the decentralization of responsibilities, then definitely there will be the proper control also. And when we are building the team, ensuring that is their managers, they are having that concept of the working togetherness. So, they are having the effective discharge are there, and here is always making these evolve in the changes there. So, an organization structure must in the situation by providing the sufficient information, processing for the coordination and the control, while focusing employees on the specific functions, products of the geographic regions. So, organizations designed for the international firms following a similar logic, which especially interest in these global versus the local strategic the opportunities are there. So, strategies for the global versus the local opportunities, naturally that you have to plan in a different way. So, when organizations venture into the international domain, managers strive to formulate a coherent global strategy, and that will provide the synergy among the worldwide operations. For the purpose of this achieving the common organization goals, one dilemma they face is the choosing whether to emphasize the global standardization versus the local responsiveness is there. Now, here these particular strategies which we are creating for these both the markets, internal and the external, or the domestic and the global, and then we have to also understand that is what is the common organizational goal. And the here one organization may face a dilemma, right, that is whether to go by the global or we should go by the local responsiveness. And that is why the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, has given this word, that is global. So, therefore, you have to do the business globally, but you have to go and work that locally, and therefore, in that case that local responsiveness for the global standardization, that will make a mixture, and then that is this integration of both that will lead to you to a success. Now, here I would like to mention about this designing structure to fit the global strategy, that is a fitting organization structure to international advantages there. So, here the authors have given this particular on the axis forces for the local responsiveness, and naturally at the y axis it is the forces for the global integration is there. So, when the local responsiveness is low and the global integration is also low, so then it will be the export strategy, international division will be there, because the here we find that is the local responsiveness is also is becoming the low is there, and when we are talking about the global integration, and naturally because the organization is having the low forces for the global integration, then definitely in that case we will go by the export strategy is there. Now, the forces for the local responsiveness is high and the forces for the global integration is low. So, multi domestic strategy will be there, that is a global geographic structure will be there. So, here we will find out that is the whenever we are having the high local responsiveness we will go by the multi domestic strategy is there, because there is a huge scope is there. So, you can understand that is the because the global integration is also low and the forces for the local responsiveness is high. So, we will go by the global geographic structure will be there, and the multi domestic strategy that will be more effective. When we are talking about the global matrix structure, so both globalization and the multi domestic strategies are there. So, here the forces for the local responsiveness is also high and the forces for the global integration. So, therefore, in that case because the local responsiveness and the global integration both are high here. So, therefore, both globalization and the multi domestic that will be the part of this structure. So, now, but it does not mean that is you have to always reach to this global matrix structure. As I mentioned, that is you have to make the analysis of your organization, you have to understand the goal of the organization. If you understand the goal of the organization, then you will go by the global matrix structure. When the forces for the local responsiveness is low and the forces for the global integration is high. So, then the globalization strategy will be there, because the local response is no, but the globally you are having the more integration, high integration. So, your strategy will be globalization. So, global product structure will work. Now, we have to analyze all these four with our further discussions. So, here we will find that is the manager must decide whether they want each global affiliate to act autonomously or whether these activities should be standardized across the countries. These decisions are reflected in the choice between a globalization versus a multi-domestic global strategy are there. The globalization strategy means that the product design, manufacturing and the marketing strategies are the standardized that is throughout the world. For example, Blake and Decker became the much more competitive internationally when it standardized its line of power and tools. So, some products such as the Coca-Cola are the naturals for the globalization, because only advertising and the marketing need to be tailored for the different reasons. A multi-domestic strategy means that the competition in each country is handled independently of the competition in other countries. Thus, a multi-domestic strategy would encourage the product design, assembly and the marketing tailored to the specific needs of the each country is there. So, this is a multi-domestic strategy where when we are talking about the design thinking nowadays when we talk about. So, therefore, how you are making these the designing is there, that becomes very important. The another important aspect when the multi domestic strategy we are talking about and as we have seen in this figure, that is a multi domestic strategy and where the local responsiveness is very high. So, therefore, marketing tailored to the specific needs of the each country, that becomes very important, because then you are making the highly specialization the product is there. The Porter's 5 forces of the competitive position analysis, I would like to take the support of this and in a model that identifies and analyzing the 5 competitive forces and that shape every industry and help to determine an industry's weaknesses and strengths. 5 forces analysis is frequently used to identify an industry structure to determine the corporate strategy. The Porter's model can be applied to any segment of the economy to understand the level of competition within the industry and enhance a company's long term profitability is there. The 5 forces model is named after the Harvard Business School professor Michael E. Porter, and these are the 5 factors are the competition in the industry, potential of the new entrants into the industry, power of suppliers, power of the customers, and the threat of the substitute products are there whenever we are talking about these 5 factors. Now, I would like to explain this Porter's 5 process of competitive position analysis, and rivalry among the existing competitors are there. So, naturally there are the 4 dimensions becoming very important, that is the threat of the new entrants are there, bargaining power of the buyers, the threat of the substitute products are there, and the bargaining power of the suppliers are there. So, here we are required to make the balance between the among the bargaining power of suppliers and the bargaining power of the buyers are there. So, here some examples are given. So, whenever we are talking about the bargaining power of the suppliers are there, and here the number and size of the suppliers, that becomes very important, and you see that in the current time the mantra of a success of any organization is the operations management, and therefore, in that case this balancing the supply chain management, and that becomes a big success. But there are the threats are also there because of the substitute products, and therefore, in that case there is a buyer propensity to substitute is becoming very high. So, that is why you find that is one company that is very popular for the one typical product, but may not be for all the products. So, here because of the buyer propensity that is to substitute is there. Now, this bargaining power of the buyers, because if you do not agree, what the buyer will do? Buyer will go to your competitor, and this difference between the competitors, that is the price sensitivity, ability to substitute, buyer's information availability, and the switching cost is there. Now, the threat of the new entrants are there, and every time because the like in India nowadays we are having a very supportive ecosystem for the startups are there, and as a result of which this entrepreneurship and startups this culture is developing, and as a result of which the people are more focused, that is how to make the big companies to be more these competitive because there are the other substitutes are always available. So, this competition in the industry is making these there less power of a company suppliers and buyers, and as I mentioned potential of the new entrants into an industry is there. So, this will be able to charge the high prices are there. I already mentioned in the detail about this the power of the suppliers, and therefore, in that case it is the that is a unique these inputs are, and how much it would not a company to switch to the another suppliers. The fewer suppliers to an industry, the more a company would depend on a supplier. As a result, the supplier has more power and can drive up input cost and push for the other advantages in trade. This power of customers and more powerful clients base means that each customer has more power to negotiate for the lower prices and the better deals. A company that has many smaller independent customers can easily charge higher prices to increase the profitability. This threat of the substitutes are there, and will have the options to forego buying a company's product, and company's power that can be weakened. So, here it is always as I mentioned in the diagram, that is there will be the threat of substitutes are there. Now, here we will talk about the achieving the strategic alignment. So, these value propositions, proof propositions, and the people propositions are there. So, it is becoming the minutes the price they pay for it, and then in here we will find that is offering minutes the cost of the products and delivery it is there, and the people propositions needed by the support, and that is the implement the strategy. Now, here we will find out that is the either we have to go for the structuralist approach, or we have to go by the reconstructionist approach is there. So, the alignment of the 3 strategies proposition in the pursuit of this either differentiation or the low cost is there, then you can make the shape your strategy, or your strategy can be the reconstruction approach is there. The alignment of the 3 strategy propositions in pursuit of both differentiation and the low cost is there. So, what will be the right strategic approach? And here we find a structuralist approach is to a good fit when the structure conditions are attractive, and they are becoming the organization has the making the more availability of the resources and capabilities to the perform, and the organization also has a bias towards the defending the current strategic position, and reluctance to the venture into the unfamiliar territory is there. And now, when we have to go for the reconstructionist approach is a good good fit. Here the author has very well explained, that is the structure containing the conditions are the attractive, but the players are that is a wolf entrenched, and the organization lacks the resources or the capabilities to outperform them. So, structural conditions are the unattractive, and they work against an organization's irrespective of the resources and the capabilities. The organization has an orientation towards the innovation, and a willingness to pursue the new opportunities are there. This is a case study, that is Asia Brown Limited. I am sure by going through this case study you will be able to understand that is how this ABB has decided about the strategies, and the formulation is there. This is a research paper, the competitive forces that shape the Australian medical education and industry analysis, using the Porter's 5 forces framework, which we have discussed about, and then finding is there, that is how these environmental forces they will help you in the shaping the strategy is there. This paper will be also having the guidelines for the leadership management in the higher educating also. This is the book recommendation, The Ultimate Competitive Advantage, why your people make all the differences, and then the 6 practices you need to engage them. So, the these authors by these Sean D. Moon and Sue Death Douglas is there, and here we will find that is this book recommendation is becoming the for the how to design enable your company to achieve the remarkable results and become an industry standout by the leveraging your most important assets, that is your people. These are the references which you can go through, and then you can find out that is the how these references they are becoming the more helpful in understanding for the strategies formulations are there. Thank you.